Well, hello gardeners, welcome back. Today we're in my backyard yet again, but with really good reason. Today I want to share with you guys some things that, gosh, I wish I would have done in my backyard space right away in the part of my planning of what we were going to create in this space. This might be really helpful to you guys to either incorporate right off the bat, put it in your planning stages to save you some time, money, and having to redo some things in the future. These are 4 things that I just kind of wish I would realize earlier on in the stages. And I thought, as a landscape designer, if I had made these mistakes, then it might be something that you may have overlooked too. So those of you guys who are new to gardening, I hope this really helps you guys out. You guys know, if you watch my channel, you know I am a landscape designer of over 25 years. So if you're looking to have some landscaping work done, you're in the Treasure or Space Coast area, please reach out to us. Those of you guys who are outside that area, we do also have a design-only service as well as a virtual service. I will be sure to put all of that on the screen so you guys can screenshot that bad boy, but for now, let's move right into the first tip. Those of you guys who have seen my backyard tour know that it is jam-packed full of palms and trees, and offers not only just that beauty that I want to see every time I walk up my back door space, but it offers me privacy, tons and tons of privacy, which is what I look for in my typical suburban front yard, backyard situation that I have. But at the same time, since I've utilized, as my husband says, every square inch of my yard for plants and trees, there is very little space for concealing the fallen tree debris, any kind of clippings or cuttings or anything like that. We don't have a big storage area. We're not allowed to have sheds here. So as far as garbage cans go, we don't have, tons of them along our side yard to house all of that material. So what I wish I would have done from the very beginning was create a space that could house that material. Since then, I've cleared out a spot. So I thought if I shared that with you guys, then in your planning stages of your buffer planting, you might take a part of that buffer. So if it's very similar to my backyard space, which is pretty much a buffer from one corner of the backyard to the other corner of the backyard, you might move one corner up and then create just a little nook, just a little spot just behind there, that when you're walking through your garden and you've got some fallen tree debris and some brown fronds that you're going to absolutely see in your garden, and you grab those guys, you walk them around that spot, pile them in that section. And I have a lovely lawn maintenance guy who I pay an extra $20 a month to, and every single week when he's here doing my natural clippings, he will grab that debris, take it with him, so I don't have to worry about hauling that and cutting it up, putting it into the trash, whatnot. It's just a common thing for them to do. I encourage all my clients to do it, and they're usually like, oh my gosh, that's absolutely great, because I didn't know what I was going to do with all of this debris, because we also live in a community just like you guys. So let me share with you guys where my little secret spot is. So we're going to walk right through my little arbor. This is brand new, by the way. Oh my goodness, you guys, I cannot wait for this Confederate jasmine to take off. But this is the end of my property line. You can see I have a little seating section here that's going to be perfect for when this goes into full bloom. New little mushrooms. I just think they're the cutest thing ever. You guys, I will put a link to this store where I found these. If you guys are local, you have to check them out. They're just so fabulous to work with. This is not sponsored or anything, but I love plugging, local companies where you can, because, gotta support our locals, right? All right, so this is my spot right back here. This is going to be in the future, I think, going to be another secret garden now that things have really grown up. This is our property line here. So we put up a Lucie hedge right on the property line. And then this spot right where I'm standing was plantings. And then I found out that, gosh, where am I going to put all these clippings? So I was constantly fighting with them in the front, by the road, putting them in the back of the truck, whatnot. They're always in the way. So we cleared out a section back here and kept it nice and clean. This has always been a little bit of an alleyway for trimming the backside of my berm, but now it really just serves as a perfect spot for all of that debris. We leave it all here piled up weekly. They come pick it up, and voila, no one's the wiser. You can see that I have a little collection over there of some debris that fell from the front section. Now that things have really grown up, we've cleared some things out from back here. I totally see this as my little secret jungle walkway. I'm really thinking about incorporating a little bit of stone, maybe some stepping stones, maybe a little bit of lower plant material to the left side of the walkway, and creating just a little bit of a secret garden between the two spaces. So this is the back side of my buffer. It has now gotten to the point where things have grown up enough to see that happening, to see that actually come to fruition. So I do think that it's time to plant phase 30. So then this will be a brand new plant planting as a cool, meandering, secret little walkway path kind of coming through this space. So I think that's going to be cool, but that'll be in an upcoming video. However, that being said, I'll also make sure to keep a little spot for my debris. So I always have that little hidden away, keeping everything nice and tucked and tidy and clean spot for all of my tree debris. So for the second thing that I would say that I regret in my garden is not doing this sooner. So you guys know from earlier videos from the past years that I had pretty much grass in this backyard space. Obviously, we always had the big buffer and we've added to it over the years. The grass was one of those things that as a landscaper, I could not get to grow. It would have its good days, it would have its bad days, but a lot of the times it just had so much issues with kind of staying mucky and muddy and turning into weeds and battling fungus. You know, we have some filtered light here and then we get some rainfall. And of course it is a lower section of my garden. Water did flow to this area. So now when I see clients who have a very similar situation and their plan is for the future to have their backyard pretty much a garden, I ask them, do you think that you might utilize using stone versus grass as your main base, your main walkway? And fortunately, a lot of them are like, yeah, I kind of like that idea. I did not initially. I was not sure if I was comfortable with having no grass at all in the backyard. I waited and tried sodding here multiple times before that was the case. If I were to go back in time, it would be totally to take out the grass day one and create a nice pathway. This rock backyard along this swale area has been clean, has been easy to maintain, has been just a no fuss, no muss kind of situation. It has been ideal. I wish I would have done that from the very beginning instead of wasting thousands on resodding year after year, several times, because this has been ideal. It also kind of adds a little bit of whimsy to the garden. I love the fact that I have a nice little meandering pathway. In the future, as my budget allows, I think I'm going to create some maybe flagstone leading through the middle of it to really kind of create that and incorporate maybe some boulders a little further out to maybe narrow that pathway to kind of make it, you know, a little bit more intimate. But that's going to come over time, and that's what's great about landscaping is these things grow. Now, if you guys are in a situation where I was years ago and you're starting off, consider doing a nice gravel pathway, letting your landscaping encroach right into that space, and then just having to not worry about any kind of fuss. On average, you get about 100 square feet per yard when it comes to gravel or stone. And so if you price that out, you kind of have a better idea of how much that's going to cost and how much that'll be a savings or not a savings for you long-term with your maintenance company. But for me, it has definitely been a savings because I've, again, resodded this yard countless times trying to make it a nice, healthy, green, grassed backyard, whatever that is in Florida. So that would be something that was definitely a fail on my part. I've come to realize I wish I would have done a lot sooner. All right, you guys, so for the next thing that I think I regret, this one's kind of a tricky one. So I have always wanted privacy in my yard, as you guys can tell from the backyard. However, the front yard came years later. I enjoy sitting by my fish pond. I enjoy having my coffee in the morning, enjoy walking through my garden and feeling like a resort or feeling like it's a botanical garden. I walk through, that's why I have all these pathways that lead me throughout the whole space, because that's what I want to feel like when I'm in my own space. I don't want to always have to take a vacation to feel like I'm on vacation. I enjoy my neighbors, but I kind of wanted a little setback, a little bit of privacy in my own space. And I had concerns about doing that because I am not in some big mansion on an estate somewhere. This is typically a very suburban yard. My neighbors have your typical front floor yard, backyard. It's just your typical neighborhood. And so creating a border fence of any kind was kind of a not really approved thing through my HOA. You know, having a big walled fence was not, you know, I can see why that wouldn't be appealing. When I mentioned to them I was thinking about doing a Lucie wall, kind of encompassing my front yard space to make it more private, adding a couple gates and then kind of softening it with a hedge. They were like, okay, we're gonna work with you because you apparently know landscape. I was a little bit concerned about doing that, so I was very hesitant. So I did not do that for years, even though I wanted to do it right away. Now that we've done it, it has been such a blessing. It is probably my favorite thing in my whole yard. We have entertained in this space. We've pitched tents out here. We have had dinner parties out here on this front little slice of our grass area. We have had fire pits with family and just kind of enjoyed. This has been such a great spot because I feel like it's so private. The hedge has solar lights that run through it at night. night. So it feels just so whimsical. It really does bring together what the backyard does. Now the front yard does that too. And I really feel like that gave me the privacy that I needed. And I was a little bit concerned about being able to do that in what's typically a pretty small, ordinary house. So those of you guys who are thinking about doing that, but you're not in a big estate or you're not in a mansion, hopefully this serves as a okay to you guys. This is something that I've done and I love. Do not regret it for 1 second. And not only that, I encourage it to my clients. I'm like, if you guys, you're garden people, you're my people, you want to be surrounded by your tropical landscape and you want to use every bit of square footage of your yard, do that, because this becomes a wall for you to enjoy. Then you can landscape in front of it and landscape behind it for your neighbors and to the inside of it for yourself. And it serves such dual duty. It's just such an ideal thing to do. We had limitations. Right where I'm standing is my septic tank. So there was no planting of any kind that can be done here. So you'll notice that I put my favorite trees, which are bougainvillea trees. I had to put them in pots, mainly because of the septic tank. And then secondly, I really don't like putting bougainvillea trees in the ground because they can be crazy. As a lot of you Floridians know it, they can, just kind of go to town. But in a pot, they're controlled, they're condensed, and they bloom so much more like this. I hate that I'm sharing this video today with you guys. We literally just trimmed the Lucie hedge and the bougainvilleas yesterday. But I know you guys as gardeners can see right through that. You know that June is the time period where everything gets that really heavy, ugly cutback, and then it's beautiful for the rest of the summer. So definitely, if you're thinking about creating a walled privacy buffer for yourself and you can only use something like a hedge, you might not be able to use tons and tons of layers to create that because of the space that you're working with. Maybe you too have a septic tank. Maybe your neighborhood doesn't allow a bunch of palms and trees to the front of the house. Maybe you want more of a clean line landscape like you see here. Those are great reasons to incorporate a walled hedge like this. Collusia is my favorite. My second favorite is podocarpus. It's what I have between my two gates because it can stay super, super narrow. It takes a little while for them to get established, unlike the collusia, but once they become established, they turn into that green, dark green wall. And I've done 2 gates on either side of that to really kind of help create that, very estate-like feel to what is technically a small entranceway to my home. So we're gonna walk out quickly. So we're now outside on my driveway area. This is what my neighbors see. It's also, Bryce, I'm sure my neighbors wouldn't mind if you kind of got a pan of what the typical homes look like in my little suburban single street community. We're a modest home in Vero Beach, and this is the front of that space. I kept it clean, I kept it tidy, I kept it neat. Of course, it's a little neater than normal because again, yesterday everything got a severe haircut, but you can see how this wall kind of curves in and out, so it's not exactly straight. I tried to work with what I had to work with to make it look attractive from the inside. There's some curvature leaning in and leaning out, and I did little pop-outs of key features. This is my son's favorite plant, which is the blue agave. I love this triple Christmas palm. It's just been such a stature palm in the garden, and so it's the centerpiece to the wall and just kind of offers a little bit of division with some small plantings underneath. And of course, privacy above all. It's exactly when we're inside there, you do not see a car unless it is UPS or FedEx. You do not see anything beyond that point, which is so nice because I can go outside in my pajamas, a cup of coffee and not have to worry about waving to every single neighbor that comes through walking their dog. I swear that sounds terrible, but I don't know. I just enjoy my Saturdays until I'm ready to engage. A lot of people are that way, so I'm hoping you guys are that way too. No judgment. All right, you guys, so we're gonna jump into the last tip. So you guys, last but definitely not least is irrigation. So I know that irrigation is obviously an important part to a Florida landscape. We definitely need the water. It keeps the plants lush and thick and shiny, and it's an ideal thing to incorporate into every garden. So I ask my clients to make sure that's a priority when we're doing our planting and planting phases, that we are incorporating irrigation to make that happen. However, in my own garden, years and years and years ago, I did an initial irrigation system like traditional. It's going to be a back buffer, so I did some heads that shot out towards the buffer, and I thought, voila, that was going to be good, considering that I had a couple phases in mind. The original plan was about 3 phases, and we were done, and that was I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. We're now probably at phase, if I were to count, 10, 12, somewhere along that, where we've added and incorporated, and I don't even see that changing even in the future. So if you guys kind of have a general plan in mind, if you see my backyard garden and it kind of just appeals to you, you think, you know, over time, I would like to create that. I would like to have layers and layers leaning all the way from maybe, you know, a few foot from my foundation out to the rear side of my property. Then allocate for that now. It is an ideal time to do that before all of this vegetation is in place. And if you're going to do that, definitely do that on standpipe. A lot of typical irrigation is set with like little small heads. They go all the way from the 4-inch to the 6-inch to the 12-inch heads, usually the highest of them all. And that's originally what I had. However, if you know that you're going to do a layered jungle kind of garden, go ahead and get the large fixed standpipes like I have here. So as you can see, I have 6-foot standpipes. They're adjustable pipes. They're pretty much PVC. We painted them green when we put them in, and then put standard pop-up nozzles on there. So those are your normal typical nozzles on those particular stand-up pipes. And then I have a different variety in 2 other places that coordinate really, really well and complement the type of irrigation that I need for my backyard space. Having the stand-up pipes do such a great job. Having them in the middle of the bed where we had to trench after the fact would have been ideal if I had put them in the appropriate spots when I originally planned the landscaping. However, I wasn't quite sure I was going to go as heavy as I did. So even after the thought, it still served as ideal. It would have saved me some serious money if I'd done it right from the beginning. And so that's what I try to do for my clients now. I try to say, okay, if this is phase 1, what does phase 5 look like? Let's plan for this, or at least lay the pipeline for it, and then maybe put some pop-up heads or work towards that as we go, so we're not doing things twice. Big part of the reason why I do that is because I have done that myself in my own garden. So to try to avoid expense for my clients, we make sure to incorporate that when we're doing our plans. The next set of piping that I use is what's here in the landscape beds. And I'm gonna turn those on so you guys can kind of see them. And I'll point out what type of heads they are, so that way you guys can maybe recommend them to your irrigation guy. So these here, I hope you can see that in the picture. These are the 12-inch pop-up spray. So they go flush all the way to the ground, spray out, come up 12 inches, really give a nice fan. Now this guy right here will cover about a 12-foot approximate half moon shape here. So it'll go from this corner to this corner, spray out a good 12 foot. And I bet if I were to measure it exactly, it looks to me more like 15, but it really does get a nice bit of coverage in this whole area where it shoots along here and up and over. I love this irrigation head, but not as much as the one I'm going to show you next. All right, you guys, so this Mamma Jamma right here is an MP rotor. It is a water saver head. Now it sounds like a water saver head, but it does take some pressure to do it. That's why I only have a few of these in the garden. But if you've got a spot where you need mass coverage, pull this guy back and really let him fan out. I mean, look how far he sprays into the bed. Really pushes out water, really puts out big, thick jets along here, and it's called an MP rotor head. And it just continuously does this all the way through. The adjustment will determine how far it goes one way or the other. It's golden when it comes to really getting a lot of coverage in my heads. And I have this here, and I have it on several of my standpipes that I need to really push out some significant water. But MP rotor heads, if your irrigation guy says you have enough pressure to use that in your garden, go that route. There are just game changers. I wish I could use them for my entire landscaping, but I have an old well and old system, so I'm working with what I got to work with. But ideal, I love the water they push out. I would have to water a little bit less if I had these all through my garden. So I put them in the most appropriate places. Just a quick tip on that. If you've got an area that really, like you have a lot of Sanchesia or Java Whites or Blaze Copperleaf, things that really like a little bit more water than others, put these kind of heads in that particular spot, because the other section of the garden, like bougainvilleas and things that, oleanders, things that don't need that much water, you can put regular heads on those, these bigger heads on the water loving plants, and voila, you've got a system that's really gonna operate perfectly, because 20 minutes equally on something like this versus something like your traditional heads is going to be a really, really good balance on drought tolerant versus tropical plant groupings. I hope that makes sense. So that's definitely something I wish we would have started right from the get-go. Would have saved us a lot of effort, a lot of time, time and a lot of digging had we just done that right off the bat. But we did it a few years later. Still serves as a beautiful garden, but you know, hopefully you guys who are in the beginning stages of things, this is really something that's going to help you right off the bat. So I hope this video does what it's supposed to do, which is save you guys just a little bit of time and money and long-term effort in your garden. And you know, you don't make some of the mistakes that I've made over the years. I try to tell all of my clients that, but I love this channel because I'm really able to send that to the masses. Those of you guys who are DIYing it and making a lot of the same mistakes that I'm making through that I have made in the past that you might be making or future making into your garden. So I hope this video becomes useful and it's something that you can look back on and say, hey, I'm gonna address this situation now. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, then please check out last week's video. It was about a updated garden tour on a beautiful, originally blank slated backyard that is now a tropical paradise of its own. It is full of fun plants and trees that are tried and true and tough to Florida landscapes. So see you guys in the very next garden tour. Take care.